Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and in this video I'll be doing a review and glucose testing on King Arthur's Keto Wheat Pancake Mix. Last week I did a review and glucose testing on 3 different no-sugar pancake mixes. The winner in that, in terms of both taste and glucose response, was the scrummy flavor. So that's what I'm going to be using on the pancakes I test today from King Arthur. And then next week I'm going to be doing a review of Scotty's keto pancake mix and compare the two. But for right now, let's get started with the King Arthur macronutrients and ingredients. Serving size is 2 pancakes, 80 total calories, 4 grams of fat, 17 grams of carbohydrates, of which 12 are dietary fiber, and 3 grams of erythritol, which I guess that makes 2 net grams of carbs per serving, and 9 grams of protein. In terms of ingredients, we have modified wheat starch, vital wheat gluten, erythritol, sunflower oil, egg whites, natural flavoring, baking powder, eggs, sea salt, and steviol glycosides. Now before we make the pancakes, I'd want to describe the glucose testing conditions for this particular video. I will be having 2 pancakes. You'll see later on I make 4, but my wife had half of them. So we cut the stack in half, I ate half, so I had 4 half pancakes, or a serving. Additionally, I top these off with butter, probably about half a tablespoon for the whole stack, and then I top them with the scrummy pancake syrup, which when I tested in a previous review, only caused about 10 points of glucose movement, so minimal glucose impact, but I will factor that in when it comes time to doing the glucose test. I am using a Dexcom G7 continuous glucose monitor and will be inputting the data over a period of 2 hours from that into the Levels Health Analysis app. Over that course of 2 hours, I will not be doing anything, no exercise, no other eating, so I'm testing these pancakes more or less in isolation. There is the syrup and there is the butter, but I think that's the fairest way to test. Now, in terms of making the pancakes, on the back of the package there are 2 different methods. The first, simple method, is just add water. The second method, you add water, eggs, and oil. We're going to try out the first method first. For the baking mix, I measured it out by weight instead of volume, and it should have been 1 cup, but it wound up being about 3/4 of a cup by volume, because I guess I didn't sift y'all. To that, I'm going to add some water, 1/2 cup, and then whisk until there are no more lumps left in here. Then we let this rest for about 5 minutes to thicken up while our griddle preheats. I've got my preheated griddle coated with butter, and I'm going to do my best to pour out 6 3.5-inch pancakes. Well, probably 4 for starters. And based on the amount of batter I have left, it could be a 5 pancake batch. Now in terms of the color on these, it's a little bit different than what I'm used to. You see like those little circles? I'm used to more of a consistent brown pancake all across the top. But we'll flip these over. They're looking all right on the bottom. I think we're ready to make our pancake stack. I'll be putting all 4 on the stack here. Serving size is 2, but I'll be splitting this with my wife for the sake of the taste test. So I'll make sure that I get the equivalent of 1 serving or 2 pancakes. We'll butter this up and then add the scrummy syrup, which won my pancake syrup taste test and glucose response test last week. And I got to reposition my butter a little bit here because I want to take a thumbnail pic. Got to have that butter centered, and got to have a proper distribution of syrup for a picture. Otherwise, I would just squirt this on a little more recklessly. Usually in my taste test portion of the reviews, I go first and then I let my wife try it out, but this time, ladies first. So here's my wife's opinion of these pancakes. All right, I'm going to have my wife Terry try these out first, and she just made some pancakes yesterday, some non-keto pancakes with Bisquick, so she should have a pretty good frame of reference.
They have really good flavor compared to, and it wasn't Bisquick that I used, it was Kodiak cake, Kodiak mix.
Okay, my bad. Yes. So how do these compare?
But these really good, and I like the crisp because we put a little butter, and that's good because I usually have oil in my pancakes. So, but yeah, the texture and everything, it's not rubbery, which I thought might be, but no, you can't really tell any difference.
All right.
That I notice. So.
Well, my turn.
Okay.
I can't even remember the last time I had pancakes, so here we go. They're all right. A little bit, I don't know, it's like, I feel like a little bit of coating inside of my mouth from like the flour batter or whatever it is. I mean, they're decent, but there's also a recipe on the back if you want to upgrade them and add some egg and add some oil. So I might try that on the next batch, because this does taste to me very much like a mix-based pancake. But now I'm gonna eat half of this stack, which would be one serving, and see what the impact is on my blood glucose. All right, let's see what the glucose response was to those pancakes using the first method, the simple method. And Levels Health scored this a 7 out of 10. That's a pretty decent score. A gentle rise. And if I do the math here, it looks like it moved 22 points. So not a spike. It seems to me, though, that that's a little bit more of a rise than a gentle rise, but we'll go with it. 22 points of glucose movement. I think that's all right for pancakes with syrup. But now I'm going to try out the second version of the pancakes. These I made with the egg and the oil, and you can see they are definitely a lot fluffier. The color on it looks better. They look more like real pancakes to me. You can see the texture on this is a lot fluffier. So definitely fluffier, which I like. Not as dense, and almost, I don't know what I would call the water-only version. I know it left a sort of a pasty taste or film in my mouth. I'm gonna try another bite of this. It's better than the water-only version, but it's still not great, in my opinion. This is not what I remember pancakes tasting like Kodiak cakes. But I'm gonna finish it, and then we'll see what my blood glucose is over the course of the next 2 hours. Now let's take a look at what the glucose response was on the better version of the pancakes. And Levels, oddly, scored this a 6. The other was a 7. This was only a 6. Again, gentle rise. And the movement on it was 16 points. So less glucose movement, which is not a big surprise, because with the oil and the egg, we've got some additional fat in there, which is going to blunt a glucose response. But I think the reason it gave it a lower score is because I didn't input as much information as I was entering the meal. And what the Levels software will do sometimes is it will use AI to try and interpret what ingredients, what macronutrients, etc., are in that particular meal. And I think that's probably why it lowered the score on me, because just in terms of glucose response, definitely better when it was with the eggs and the oil. And in fact, I would say that if you're eating pancakes with syrup and you're only getting a 16-point glucose response, that's pretty reasonable. So what are my final thoughts on the King Arthur keto wheat pancake mix? They were decent. They weren't mind-blowing, but I think perhaps if you added maybe a little bit more sweetener, maybe some vanilla, or kind of double down and use like this, what is it? There's some stevia, Sweet Leaf, that's the brand. Sweet Leaf drops, they've got a vanilla cream. Maybe a little bit of that in this mix could take it where it needs to go. In terms of the ingredients, if you have an issue with wheat or with gluten, obviously this is a no-go for you. But price-wise, it's probably the least expensive keto-ish pancake mix at only $5 or $6 a package. Taste-wise, they were decent. I think enough butter, enough syrup, and some sausage on the side, and you'll be in business. But as I said at the top of this video, I will be back next week to try out another brand, Scotty's, and see how that compares to the King Arthur. I hope you enjoyed this video or found it at least a little bit helpful. If you did, please click that like button. If you're not a subscriber already, tap that subscribe button, then hit the bell to turn on all notifications. And if you never want to miss one of my videos and would also like to get some behind the scenes info, I'd encourage you to sign up for the Serious Keto newsletter. Comes out once a week, every Sunday. Link to sign up down below in the description. Thanks for watching.